Okay, welcome back to the Power 40 Scientific Trading School. Yes, and I am Francis Bestman, the founder of the Power 40 Scientific Trading School. And today I want to show you an important lesson on alternative entry levels. Yes, while we have the ROEL, main entry level, we have alternative entry levels that are also important when deciding to come into the market early. So initially we've had the mathematical price sequence that we call the fib sequence. So fib sequence is useful after the market has left off from the ROEL, that is retest of the main entry level 1, 2, and 3. So where do we come in again after the market has left the entry level and is already moving into profit? So we are using fib sequence, and then we are also going to use the pre-DL, that is the move before break of deviation limit. That's what we call pre-DL. All right, so now let's use today's market and look at it. Today is 28th of May. So this morning the market has made a move, completing a previous day's move that we correctly projected, of course. So that was a sell continuation from the previous day's completion of the first fib sequence. So the fib sequence was from 4504 to 4304. We had called the short, and exactly as called, the market went to the profit target, which is 1000 pips. Okay, then the market after was bouncing off the 100 pips. That's the 1000 pips of the fib sequence, which is our new fib 10 times arrow. The market then bounced up to 4456. So 4456, now we can see the market rejecting 4456. So we called the new short at 4456, where we expected the market to return back into continuation, okay, of a downward projection. Now, where did we find our entry? We found the entry at the rejection, okay, of 4456. So we wanted to see a break above 4456, then we will take our entry at 4450. Wanted to see a break above 4456, then we'll take our entry at 4450, and that was what happened. So we saw the market breaking 4456. So we watched for it, we waited for it, and here this was 4456. This was a break above 4456, right? So right now we've seen the break above 4456. We want to see the market return back after the break above 4456, okay, and we take our entry at 4450. So the market went above 4456 after the first break. So the first break stayed above it and then came down below it. All right, so now coming down below it, the market moved to 4450 and we took our sell entry. So at this point we have taken our entry 4450. Our stop loss is always 200 pips, so which means our stop loss will be 4470 and our take profit will be 1000 pips. Okay, so 4450 to 4350. We can also, if we see a change of structure, we can exit. All right, so that was the entry that moved the market down to 4466. Okay, so shy of 4450 by 140 pips. All right, so now we saw a structure, which means that we have to trade on the new structure that we saw. The structure we saw was the formation of a new fib sequence. Yes, formation of a new fib sequence. As soon as we spotted the new fib sequence, we saw that the fib 0 will be at 4378, which means the first fib arrow, this is the original structure. So we have buy fib and sell fib. Okay, so buy fib goes to fib arrow, sell fib goes to fib L. Arrow for right, L for left, since in our fib sequence price only moves in two directions, left or right, not up or down. So we saw the price come to 43 4.78, okay, and formed an impulse, which was the first correction impulse of the day. Then we saw the formation of another minor correction impulse. This signaled trend continuation, okay, because one minor correction impulse has formed, which means the market is not expected to do what? Continue in the correction direction, unless it's going to be an expansion or a trend reversal. In this case, reversal will mean going back down, okay? Then expansion will be continuing upward. But that would have been before forming what? A minor correction impulse, which the market has formed already. So with the TCL of the minor correction impulse at 4393, the price stayed below it, unable to break it until it broke at this point. So the moment it broke that level, which is the TCL of the minor correction impulse, that is breaking above 4395, we saw the formation of the sell base, which is the first sell base of the day. Market has formed the initial buy base of the day. So right now at this point, before the move to form the first sell base of the day, we observe the price coming to the fib arrow, which is the buy fib arrow. So whenever we mention fib arrow, we mean in the direction of buy. So the market come to the fib arrow, and at the fib arrow, we now saw a break, okay, above the fib arrow. So the fib arrow is at 4388, all right, while the buy fib zero was at 4378. So when we saw that, we called the short to place a buy limit at 4388, okay, at 4378. Now we're expected to see the market, okay, from going above 4388, okay, breaking above 4388. We want to see the market come back down and take us in. Fib arrow times 10 projection, which means we're expecting the price to go to 4478. That's the projection. Now this projection has come because the market was sitting above fib arrow, okay, and then the market was rejecting fib L or sell fib 0, okay. The market was rejecting fib L or sell fib 0. Market stayed at the buy fib 10 times 5 arrow, okay. The market stayed at buy fib 10 times 5 arrow. See the rejection of buy fib 10 times 5 arrow. This was the first time it attempted to break it, okay. This was the formation, all right. This is the first test. It broke it downwards, then coming downwards it coming downwards it formed the fib L, that's fib 0, sell fib 0. Then returning upward, it engaged with fib 10 times 5 arrow. So buy fib 10 times 5 arrow, rejected, and then broke above it, okay. So breaking above it, it came back down and then rejected fib 10 times 5 arrow. So at this point of rejecting fib 10 times 5 arrow, we already see the projection, okay, that if the market goes up to break again above fib arrow, we are going to place a buy limit, okay. So this was the market returning back above fib 10 times 5, rather fib arrow, okay. Here at this closing, there is a successful break, so we'll place a buy limit, okay, on fib 10 times 5, or rather fib arrow. So this is the buy limit the market returns to pick it, okay, at fib arrow. Now we can use 30 pip stop loss here, which is at from 4388. We'll use our stop loss at 4385, okay, 0.03. So 4385.03. We saw the market dip to 4385.95, okay. So sparing the stop loss and bouncing back up above fib arrow. So this is our first alternative entry while waiting for a DL. So that's a pre-DL entry, okay. So we can trade pre-DL. Then another way to trade pre-DL, which is The first one I've mentioned is trading with the fib sequence. When the price goes to break above the fib arrow, since we are using a 10 times scaled chart, okay, for our analysis, so our fib arrow now has fib arrow times 10, which is the main projection. So right now the market has not formed, the market has successfully formed the two bases, buy base and sell base, okay, but it has not broken any of the deviation limit. So we can trade before the break of deviation limit, and that is the option I want to talk about. First, the earliest option is to trade at the break of fib sequence, if there is a fib sequence formed already, which in this case there is a fib sequence and we already have an entry, okay, from 4388. So the next one is to trade at, if the market goes to engage, okay, after forming any of the deviation, any of the bases, okay, buy base or sell base, we look at the stop loss of that buy base, which is 200 pips from the base, okay, or sell base, which is 200 pips from the base. Then we calculate 30 pips from the stop loss. That will become our entry level 1, okay, when trading pre-break, okay. So right now, let's see how the market goes. First of all, to engage the stop loss before breaking what? The deviation limit. So if that happens before the break of deviation limit, we're going to place an entry from the stop loss, okay, 30 pips from the stop loss. So in this case, where the sell base is at 4396, it means the stop loss will be at 4376. That's 200 pips, right? So which means our entry would be at 30 pips above. Since it's a sell base, we are going to be buying towards the sell base, okay, and towards its deviation limit, which is a total of 500 pips. You see that, right? That's a very beautiful entry opportunity if it happens. So this is the next thing we are waiting for, while we're already in the market, for an entry from the break of the buy fib arrow, okay. So now we are seeing the second entry level. Okay, this is not second entry level per se, this is alternative entry in pre-DL entry pattern, okay. So now we have seen that we want to buy the market, then we also want to watch for the return back to the stop loss, okay, engaging the stop loss before the move. So if the market comes back down to the stop loss price, okay, and engages the price here at 4379, we are going to place a buy entry at this level. So this buy entry is called the main pre-DL, which is a deviation from the sell base, okay, a deviation from the sell base, okay. So ordinarily this is supposed to be a sell entry, you remember, right? If the deviation limit is not broken, then we are going to be selling, right? But if the deviation limit is broken, we are going to be buying. So in this case, the deviation limit has not been broken. The deviation limit is at 4426, okay? So it has not been broken yet, neither has it been engaged. So if before the market engages or breaks the deviation limit, it goes towards the stop loss of the sell base, okay? That's not a stop loss in this instance, but 200 pips from the sell base, which would have been, if we were selling, it would have been a profit direction, right? So the 30 pips from that level is our entry level 1, okay. Then if that entry goes to stop loss, which is now at 76, the 20 pips from there will be our entry level 2. If that also goes to stop loss, then the 10 pips from there is going to be our entry level 3. So which means that we can anticipate that before it happens and wait for it. So if the market comes down into this zone, okay, we're going to take what? Our entry. So our entry is going to be a buy entry from 4379. Then if the market comes to the stop loss at 4376, we are going to also place another entry, okay. This time we'll be using account 2, which is 0.02. But the good thing about this entry setup is that it is anticipating the break of the deviation limit, okay, in the direction of the first sell base to be broken, or the first base to be broken. So since the buy base has not been broken and the sell base has been broken, ordinarily it projects the possibility of what? A break of the sell base deviation limit. But if that doesn't happen, then the market may want to come to engage the buy base, which means that if the market engages the buy base and also gives us that potential of breaking its deviation limit, we'll also use the same method to trade at the sell base. That's to trade at the buy base, its own 200 pips. Okay, profit move in buy direction. We'll be waiting to sell at that level again. Remember that we only start buying against the basis only when the deviation limit has been broken, because the break of any deviation limit indicates a move in the direction of the break. So if it is a sell deviation limit that gets broken, the market is expected to move in the direction of the break, which is buying against the sell base, or selling against the buy base, whose deviation limit has been broken. So these are the two other ways we can take our entries outside the break of deviation limit. Otherwise, we follow after the break of deviation limit, we wait for a retest, okay, of the entry level. So how does that happen? If this, let's look at the deviation limit here at 4426 will be the deviation limit. Okay, if the market goes above 4426, which hasn't happened yet, okay, breaks it and returns below it, okay, by 200 pips, that will be our entry level 1 retest. So that's what we call retest of entry level 1. If it breaks that 200 pips below the deviation limit, that will be the first confirmation. Okay, now breaking back above, in this case now we mean calling for entry. So when it calls for entry, it means we are going to take our first entry as a buy limit at entry level 1. Okay, so that is when that rule applies. In the meantime, we are having our entry based on, current entry is based on the fib arrow. Okay, so we already have a buy fib sequence that the market is playing into the zone of fib arrow. Okay, so the market is currently above fib arrow. Fib arrow is at 4388. The market has already gone 4398, so that's 100 pips above fib arrow. So that's fib arrow, okay, times 1. So we have the full projection is fib arrow times 10. So the market is currently within the zone of fib arrow, which corresponds with fib arrow projection. Okay, so if the market wanted to give us a sell entry, it means it will have to come to the fib L, and fib L will be at 4366. Okay, which if you look here is where the market bounced off from. So if the market comes to 4366 and breaks below 4366, it means we are going to place a sell limit, okay, after the break below 4366. So that is a rule when trading with fib sequence. So right now the current rule is applied to trading the buy fib sequence. That is why our entry at 4388 is still standing, and all this while it has been profit. And now while we are in that entry, we are also looking at the new structure, hoping that the market will dip. Okay, even when it dips, we only have a 30 pips SL here, that is at 4385. that is the SL of the fib sequence buy entry. Okay, so we are now going to be looking forward to a buy level at 4379. If the market can successfully go back into the fib sequence, which if you notice after formation, okay, after breaking the buy fib 10 times 5 arrow, it had not broken the 10 times 5 arrow, it has not engaged with the sell fib. Okay, while we have the sell fib 10 times 5 arrow here, okay, the market has not engaged with the sell fib 10 times 5 arrow here. Then remember, we will also have our buy fib. Okay, we'll also have our buy fib 10 times 5L, which the market also has not engaged. So if the market would want to engage that, we are also going to trade it. So all the buy fib levels, 10 times 5 arrow, 10 times 5 L, okay, for the buy fib, or sell fib 10 times 5 L or 10 times 5 arrow, we are going to trade it, okay? Or buy fib arrow or sell fib L, we are going to trade. Those are our entry levels for fib sequence. The moment we have had that entry, our projection is worth 1,000 pips. So several ways for us to trade for 1,000 pips apart from the break of deviation limit. So right now we are watching the market live, seeing what will happen today, Thursday, May 28th. On the previous day, we have already successfully achieved 2,000 pips profit, okay? So we achieved the first profit move on the previous day when the market traded the first fib sequence for the sell fib, just like I'm demonstrating now for today. This was yesterday's sell fib 0, and then the market was expected to break 4493, okay, which is here at 4494. So the market broke it. So the moment the market broke it, we started expecting what a sell entry, which is why we are placing the sell entry at this point at 4494. And that is a move. First attempt, the market made a move to 200 pips, reversed again to engage the level again, and we took the entry, okay? Took the entry. Of course, we are still in the same entry, so the entry held true because our SL was set higher, 200 pips, okay? And the market moved down and completed that move first yesterday. That was the first 200 pips, right? Then the next and the first 1,000 pips based on the sequence that we are trading. Now the new sequence we are looking at, or we looked at, was at the 500 pips, okay? When the market came to engage and failed to break the 500 pips. So our rule now says if the market breaks the 500 pips, which is the 10 times 10 times 5, okay, L of the sell fib, 10 times 10 times 5 L. Remember, this is mathematical price sequence, right? Which means the market must respect all the sequences. Then we are going to place a sell, and that was what happened. The market first engaged, rejected, next again engaged, okay, engaged, rejected, and finally broke. This was the first break, okay? Then we said we are entering at 50. The reason for the 50 is because we have what a trend line we drew at the minor trend impulse, okay? Then we have for the minor trend impulse, its CROL, that's correction retracement level, was at 50.45. So that's why we are trading at below 50.45 sell. You see that, right? So the market needs first of all to engage and break above the 10 times 5 10 times 10 times 5 was L of the yesterday's sell fib. And when it did that, it did not come to break, okay, for us to have our sell limits up until the end of yesterday, okay? So now going again above and returning to break the 10 times 10 times 5 L of yesterday's sell fib, we now have our entry, which is at 50, okay? So that entry here from 50, we have the market moving down all the way to 43, okay? And these two entries we are given. So these two entries we are given, and right now we have the market entering into our zone just as we had expected. So which means right now the market is back into our zone. Our fib sequence has been engaged with. The market is now back to engaging our entry level at this point. So this is the point when we know that we no longer have an entry based on buy fib unless the market returns above, okay, and breaks what? The fib arrow. So we no longer have our fib arrow entry. The market has cancelled out that fib arrow entry in a punch down, okay? And right now the market is coming to engage our fib 10 times 5, okay, fib 10 times 5 arrow. So this is the level. Now what do we expect if we're going to trade fib 10 times 5 arrow? We are not going to trade it, so let's ignore it, okay? What we are looking at trading is this level here, which is a pre-DL entry level if the market goes to engage at 4379. So we're going to call this short now and expect that we're going to have a decent entry based on the rules explained. So welcome. I remain Francis Bestman, the founder of Powerful Scientific Trading School. Okay, so now we have seen that the market actually went down to the level at 4379 as we had expected, did the first test. Initially it had gone all the way down to 4375, then it bounced up, and right now the market is making the big move up, yes, with a power move. And this power move from 4427 current price to its opening price, yes, the candle that opened this move is over 240 pips currently running. This is because we used the Power 40 scientific trading method, just like we mentioned, using the pre-DL entry plan or entry rule. That is part of the Power 40 scientific trading method, leveraging mathematical price sequence. So we looked at the market earlier before the move began, and we also position ourselves to take the entry with conviction. We had already anticipated that this was going to happen. We saw it coming down and we got ready to come in. So right now the market has respected our projection with 100% accuracy from the end of the previous day's move that started the day to the new trend starting. So right now, this is just the beginning of the wave. They projected that this is going to go all the way up to 4478. 4478, yes. So we want to see this price get to 4478 and even beyond. Yes, we're expecting the market will get all the way up to 4521. So but it needs to complete the first circle, which is at 4478. That's the first circle. 4478. Our entry is from 4379. So now we are also marking our level. Yes. So based on the observation, we are using the rule for, first of all, retest of entry level. So we have marked the future price, that is the buy ROEL entry level 1, which is based on if the market haven't broken the deviation limit. Remember that this was what we were talking about initially, that when the market gets to 4426, then we'll expect to see it come back down. Okay, so now the market is approaching 4429, which means that from 4428 the market can go to the ROEL at 4406. Yes, 4406. So we will be watching this as it comes to be. Firstly, the deviation limits had to break, but this is before the break of the deviation limit. This is before the break of the deviation limit. We are watching the market make the move towards the trend direction, and then we expect that this move is going to go as expected. So now we are adding our angular projection. The angular projection is meant to show the full sequence, which is 1000 pips. Full sequence, 1000 pips. So if the market makes the move full sequence, then it means that our first projection of profit for the day has been achieved. Then we'll be waiting for the next confirmation, which is confirming the level from 4479, from 4479 to from 4379 to 44. So We are going to watch that as it plays out and see how it goes. So this is our fib sequence. We are marking it from the buy fib 0 to fib arrow times 10. That is what the yellow pyramid represents. And we have also marked the 500 pips, which is the average price of the buy fib sequence. So in this case, we have played according to our fib sequence for the buy projection fib sequence. So other times, or yesterday, we saw the sell fib sequence, and today we are seeing the buy fib sequence. Okay, so we are waiting to see the complete move, which will get price up by another 500 pips. So right now the price has done the first 500 pips. It has come across the fib 10 times 5 or 10 times 10 times 5 arrow, because everything is scaled by 10 right now. So next we want to see it get to the fib arrow times 10. Fib arrow times 10. So why that is expected, the first thing we are seeing is expecting a rejection at the previous day's trend line. We are expecting that when the market engages the previous day's trend line, it's going to first of all reject, and after the rejection, we are going to see a break. So before the break, there should be a rejection, and the rejection will be the time when we can move our stop loss into break even. But that's not necessary because we're already over 500 pips in profit at this stage, and this is how we call the short. We had called the short earlier, showing that our projection was already based on the Power 40 scientific trading rule. Okay, so these were the entries we called. So we called for buy limit at 4388, then also 4379, and you can see that our projection is take profit at 4485. So we did not just call this arbitrarily. These are because we have the rules that we have to follow, and these rules are using the fib sequence that we've mentioned already. So we have called also 4381. As the market keeps moving and we see changes, we keep calling for new entries. So sometimes your not being available to take the entry can also affect the outcome, right? But ultimately the result was positive. It was profit at the end. So 1,000 pips profit at the end. And this is what matters the most, that despite how rough the market could be, the end should be profits. So all said and done, this is the outcome of the entry for today, Thursday 28th of May. Just as mentioned earlier, this is when the market has finally moved. We use the pre-DL method for entry, we combined it with the fifth sequence, mathematical price sequence entry, and the level that dominated the most was 4379, which we had taken after the formation of the sell SBL level. So finally the market came down, retested the level. This was the first test, okay, as we had expected, and this was the retest. Now we also had other entry levels at 81, 83 and 88. So altogether 4 entries, and this is the move. Finally 1000 pips of profit was achieved at 4478. So this is live market confirmation, and the market is still moving to finally fulfill the projection for the day, which is to get price up all the way up to, let's look at that exact point where the market needs to get to consummate the day's trade. That is to get price all the way up to 4496. So at this point, that is achieved 4496. So you can see that the market has gone above 4496. The current price is 4502. So this is proof and confirmation that the power of scientific trading method works effectively, and we have traded it successfully. I remain Francis Bestman Isugu, the founder of PSL Luxury Lifestyle brand.